It's debt ceiling day. We're talking about the debt ceiling today. What is it? What does it actually mean? And what happens if we don't extend the debt ceiling? Hi, I'm Antonio Cibella with Vision Wealth Management. Lots of news starting to pick up on the debt ceiling, that we're coming up on the debt ceiling and explaining sort of what it actually is through all of the noise is what we're going to do today. So we're going to talk about it. Here we go. The debt ceiling is a number that is the statutory limit that we're allowed to borrow. That's the ceiling. We collectively as a country, the U.S. federal government, can borrow a certain amount up to the debt ceiling. Now, remember, we run deficits, deficit spending. That means we're always borrowing new money just to meet the obligations that we've already signed up for. Every time a bill is passed, we don't actually have the money to pay for it. And so we say, well, we'll just borrow the money. And so the debt has been consistently rising, the national debt, for some time, and it bumps up to this debt ceiling. Now, it's important to understand, I say it's an arbitrary figure because we've already committed to spending more than the number of the debt ceiling. If you go out to whitehouse.gov, there's some projections out there of what they think will happen over the next 5 years or so. It far surpasses the current debt ceiling. That stuff's already been passed. That stuff's already been agreed to. The debt ceiling is this number that we say we can't exceed this. Now, that doesn't mean that that is all the money we need to continue to exist. We've bumped up against the limit. We need to make a new limit so that we can continue to fund the things that we've already agreed to fund. That's the problem with deficit spending. Now, you can't do that forever, but it's important to understand that the debt ceiling is a self-imposed limit. There isn't anyone that's saying, well, we're not going to buy any more treasuries. That's how we borrow money from places, is we issue treasuries and they're bought by other countries or investment firms, what have you, individuals. Nobody's saying we don't want any more U.S. treasuries. You've got a problem on that front. We're saying we can't borrow anymore because we've hit the debt ceiling. And so this comes up periodically, and the problem with it is it becomes political gamesmanship. It becomes a talking point politically when one side tries to score points against the other, and we all kind of hang in the balance, and that's the problem. That can be bad for markets. We only have to go back to 2011 to see this happen. Now, it's come about many times before, then it just hasn't picked up to this level since 2011. In 2011, the Treasury had to enact extraordinary measures, that's what they call it, and they come up with something called an X date, which is to say we can shuffle some things around and we can meet all of the obligations to this date, but if you don't extend the ceiling, we can't borrow more money to meet the obligations beyond that date. The issue is, again, go back to 2011, something similar happened. The X date was August of 2011 when they said if you don't bump up the ceiling, we're going to run out of time, and then we're going to have to start to cut things. We're not going to be able to make Social Security payments. We're not going to be able to make debt payments. Whatever it may be, we're not going to have enough money to be able to meet the obligations because we don't bring enough in to do it, so we have to borrow through treasuries, and you won't let us borrow anymore because we're now at the debt ceiling. So let us borrow some money so we can keep the train on the tracks is essentially what we're talking about here. In 2011, where it got really far down to the wire, the stock market reacted poorly. In the summer of 2011, July into early August, the market was down about 16% in the lead up to this X date. As a result of what happened there, S&P downgraded the U.S. debt. They said, you guys aren't AAA anymore, you're now AA plus, because we don't like what you're doing, making this a political game. Raise the debt ceiling, keep it moving. It's not that we don't have the money to pay the obligations. It's that we're choosing to establish a line in the sand and say we will not go beyond this. Now, whether or not we should continue to deficit spend is a whole other conversation, but the fact of the matter is we've already committed beyond this point. Playing games with this is not a smart idea, and hopefully the members of Congress will figure this out and get the thing bumped well before June. But understand what the debt ceiling is. This isn't asking to borrow new money per se. This is asking to borrow the money to meet the obligations that we've already agreed to through the deficit spending because we're now cresting into that limit again. Hopefully that gives you an overview on what the debt ceiling is. Again, not a commentary of whether it's good, bad, or indifferent, or whether we should continue to deficit spend. We should not. We really need to rein things in. But again, that's a whole other conversation. The way to rein things in is not to force yourself into default by not raising the debt limit. I hope you learned something today. I thank you for being here, and I'll see you soon.